August 25, 1944, somewhere in Normandy, Major Karl-Heinz Braun of the Wehrmacht's 1st 116th Panzer Division stands at a roadblock on the Route Nationale. He has orders to demolish it, slow the American advance, but when he arrives, he stops, stares, and cannot believe what he sees. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. 3 days ago, his reconnaissance reported this sector, a marshy lowland without infrastructure, impassable for anything heavier than a motorcycle. Now, a perfectly straight highway cuts across it, 8 meters wide. Hard surface, built to carry Sherman tanks that weigh 33 tons, 160 kilometers of new road. In 7 days, Braun walks to an American prisoner, a private from an engineer battalion. How many men built this? The private answers without hesitation, 1 battalion, 680 men. Braun writes the number in his field notebook, underlines it twice. Later, in his after-action report, he will add a single sentence. This contradicts all known engineering principles. He is not wrong. By German standards, this is impossible. Their own engineers would need months for such a project, perhaps longer, but the Americans did it in a week. Under fire, in mud, through terrain the Germans themselves had written off as worthless. This is not the first time the Wehrmacht has encountered something they cannot explain about the Americans, and it will not be the last. This is the story of how the United States Army turned construction speed into a weapon more devastating than artillery, how they built faster than the enemy could destroy, how they transformed logistics into combat power, and how doing the impossible became standard operating procedure. When we think of World War II, we imagine tanks rolling across fields, aircraft filling the skies, infantry storming beaches, but wars are not won only by those who fire guns. They are won by those who build the roads guns travel on, who erect the bridges tanks cross, who construct the supply lines that keep armies fed and fueled. Between 1942 and 1945, American engineers laid approximately 102,000 kilometers of roads, a distance equal to 1/4 of the way from Earth to the Moon. They built 21,000 bridges. They cleared 13 million square meters of mines, and they did this under artillery fire, under bombing, in frost, in heat, in conditions that would break civilian construction crews within hours. The Germans called them the concrete blitz. The British called them Yankee builders. The Americans simply called themselves engineer battalions. But they were more than builders. They were the men who changed the fundamental nature of war itself, who proved that in modern combat, speed of construction equals speed of victory. December 1941, the day after the attack on Pearl Harbor, America enters the war. Military command realizes immediately that the army is not ready. On paper, the United States has only 12 engineer regiments. Equipment is outdated. Methods are still from the First World War. Slow, methodical, by the book. Colonel Hugh Casey sits in the Pentagon over a map of Europe. He has just returned from inspecting British engineers in North Africa. What he saw there disturbed him. A 30-meter bridge, 5 days to construct. By British standards, that is normal. By Casey's calculations, it is catastrophic. He runs the numbers. If Americans must advance from Normandy to Berlin, they will cross approximately 60 major rivers, hundreds of smaller ones, thousands of kilometers without proper roads. At British pace, that campaign could take years. Casey writes a report. The title is blunt: The Problem of Speed. The thesis is even blunter. We must build 10 times faster, or we will lose the war of time. January 1942, Fort Belvoir, Virginia. A new school of engineer troops is established. Casey commands it. He gathers the country's best civilian engineers, skyscraper builders from New York, bridge designers from San Francisco, road engineers who carved routes through the Rocky Mountains, men who understand that time is measured in dollars, and in war, time is measured in lives. The average age of these instructors is 32. Young, ambitious, not bound by military tradition. The first thing Casey does is throw out the old manuals. The British manual from 1923 goes directly into the trash. In its place, a blank slate, and one simple question: how do we build a bridge in one night? February 1942. The first group of cadets arrives, 200 men. Casey brings them to the bank of the Potomac River at 6 in the morning. The temperature is -8 degrees Celsius. Wind cuts through their uniforms like razors. Casey gives them their assignment. You have 12 hours. By 6 this evening, I want a bridge that can hold a 30-ton tank. There are no detailed blueprints, no step-by-step instructions, only basic materials: wooden beams, steel cables, bolts, nails, and the challenge. The first hours are chaos. No one knows where to start. Some cadets suggest drafting a detailed plan. Others want to measure the river precisely. Most simply, stand and watch, paralyzed by the scope of the task. Casey does not intervene. He stands to the side, lights his pipe, observes. By 10 in the morning, one cadet takes initiative. John Lipcomb, a former construction foreman from Chicago. He divides the group into 5 teams. One team measures the river, another prepares beams, a third drives pilings, the fourth lays decking, the fifth secures everything with cables. By 6 in the evening, the bridge stands. It is crooked, it creaks, it looks unsafe, but it holds. Casey brings a 30-ton M3 Lee tank. The driver crosses himself before mounting. The planks bow under the weight. Someone in the crowd closes his eyes. The tank moves slowly. The bridge groans, but it does not collapse. Casey turns to the exhausted cadets. 7 hours and 15 minutes, too long. Next time, 4 hours. The cadets stare at him as if he has lost his mind. 4 hours. Impossible. Casey smiles. I have already seen what you can do. You just do not know it yet. That is where the revolution begins. Casey understands a fundamental truth. Speed is not only about muscle or machinery. It is about organization, about every man knowing his exact task without needing orders, about acting automatically, like parts of a finely tuned machine. Over the next 6 months at Fort Belvoir, something unprecedented takes shape. What military historians will later call standard operating procedures, SOPs. These are not merely instructions. They are algorithms, step-by-step processes for every typical situation an engineer might face. How to build a bridge over a 20-meter river, how to lay a road through swamp, how to clear a minefield in 1 hour. Everything is written by minutes, by steps, by commands. No room for interpretation, no time wasted on discussion. By the end of 1942, 3,000 engineers have passed through Fort Belvoir. Each receives a small booklet before deployment, 40 pages. On the cover, a dry title: Field Engineer's Handbook. Inside, diagrams, tables, numbers, no superfluous words, only practical algorithms. This is the revolution. The Germans build based on experience. The British build based on tradition. The Americans create a system, and that system is about to prove its worth in the field, where measurements are not in hours, but in minutes, where failure does not mean delays, it means death. November 1942, Operation Torch, the Allied landing in North Africa. 3 American engineer battalions come ashore on Moroccan beaches alongside infantry and tanks. The 16th, the 39th, the 48th, 2,000 men. For most, this is their first taste of combat. Lieutenant Colonel William Carter commands the 16th Battalion. His orders are simple on paper, catastrophic in reality. Build a road from the beach to Casablanca. Distance, 42 kilometers. Deadline, 3 days. The terrain is sandy in some places, rocky in others. There is no existing infrastructure. Nothing. British advisors inspect the route. Their assessment is polite but firm. Less than 2 weeks is impossible. You need proper surveying, soil analysis, engineering studies. 2 weeks, minimum. Carter does not argue. He simply opens his Fort Belvoir handbook to page 38. laying a road through sandy terrain. He reads the procedure aloud to his officers. Step 1. Route reconnaissance, 2 hours. Step 2. Marking the line, 1 hour. Step 3. Begin bulldozer work. November 10th, 5 in the morning. 10 scouts in jeeps race along the entire proposed route. 1 hour and 40 minutes. Every 100 meters, they drive stakes into the ground, marking dangerous sections, noting optimal paths. Behind them comes the topographic team. They check slopes, test soil composition. They work fast. No extended analysis. Just enough data to proceed. Another hour. Then the bulldozers arrive. The 16th Battalion has 6 of them. 15-ton Caterpillars, engines delivering 300 horsepower. The operators are former civilian construction workers, men from California and Texas who know these machines better than they know their own cars. The bulldozers move in formation, like tanks advancing on enemy positions. Behind them roll the graders, smoothing what the bulldozers have torn. Behind the graders come the rollers, compacting soil. The process flows like an assembly line. A bulldozer cuts a path, a grader levels it, a roller compacts it. Speed, approximately 300 meters per hour. In one day, 7 kilometers of new road. Major Thompson, a British observer, watches and cannot believe his eyes. The Americans do not pause for lengthy measurements. They do not check every meter multiple times. They work as a continuous flow. Bulldozer cuts, grader levels, roller compacts, no gaps, no delays. By evening, Thompson approaches Carter. That road will not hold heavy equipment. It is too rough, too fast. Carter does not argue. He simply gestures toward a column of GMC trucks, each loaded with supplies, 10 vehicles, each weighing 6 tons, fully laden. They pass along the new road without incident, not a single rut. The surface holds. Thompson writes in his report that night, American methods defy conventional engineering wisdom, yet they work. November 12th. The pace accelerates. The men have found their rhythm. Bulldozer operators work in 8-hour shifts. One climbs down from the cab. Another immediately takes his place. The engine never cools. No pauses. No breaks for extended rest. By day's end, 8.5 kilometers of new road. November 13th. At the 23rd kilometer, the route encounters an obstacle. A wadi, a dry riverbed. 15 meters wide and 4 meters deep. The British suggest a detour. It would add 10 kilometers, but avoid the engineering challenge. Carter opens his handbook again. Page 54. Rapid construction of a crossing over a wadi. At 8 in the morning, 3 trucks arrive carrying sections of a Bailey bridge, the British-designed, prefabricated bridge system. But the Americans do not use it in the British manner. They do not erect a full bridge structure. Instead, they throw the iron sections directly onto the riverbed, cover them with sand and stone, tamp everything down with rollers. What results is not a bridge, it is an embankment, reinforced with metal, crude, functional. 5 hours later, the crossing is ready. By British standards, such a crossing should take 2 days, minimum. November 14th, 3 in the afternoon. The road is finished. 42 kilometers, 3.5 days. The first test comes immediately. A column of 15 Sherman tanks, 30 tons each. They move at full speed, 40 kilometers per hour. The road holds. Not a crack, not a failure. General George Patton arrives in person. He steps out of his jeep, walks a few meters on the new road, even jumps once, as if testing the strength with his own weight. Then he turns to Carter. Lieutenant Colonel, how the hell did you do this? Carter smiles, shows Patton the Fort Belvoir handbook. System, sir. Just the system. Patton flips through the pages, stops at section 102. Construction of a runway. For heavy bombers. He looks at Carter. You can do that too? Yes, sir. In how long? The book says 7 days, sir. We will do it in 5. These are not empty boasts. American engineers have already proven they can do what others call impossible. But North Africa is only the beginning. Ahead lie Sicily, Italy, and eventually Normandy, where the system will face its ultimate test. July 1943, Operation Husky, the invasion of Sicily. On paper, the plan appears straightforward. Seize the island in 30 days. Use it as a springboard for invading Italy. But reality presents a different challenge. Sicily is mountains. The roads are narrow, winding. Many date back to Roman times. For modern military columns, they are practically useless. July 10th, the day of the landing. The 540th Engineer Battalion comes ashore with the first assault waves. Major Robert Moore commands, 31 years old. A civilian bridge designer from Oregon before the war. Under his command, 604 men, 20 trucks, 4 bulldozers. His mission defies logic. Within 48 hours, build a road from Yellow Beach to the town of Nemi. Straight line distance, 23 kilometers, by old roads through mountains, 48 kilometers. Moore makes a decision that contradicts every engineering manual ever written. Cut a new road straight through the mountains. His deputy, Captain Jenkins, objects immediately. Sir, there is a slope of 45 degrees ahead. It is impossible. Moore's answer is brief. Possible. Read Chapter 8. Chapter 8 of the Field Handbook states plainly, do not go around obstacles, break through them, use explosives to cut slopes, bulldozers for rapid grading, accept minimal standards instead of perfect blueprints. Midnight, July 11th. Work begins. The temperature is 28 degrees Celsius. At night, cooler than during the scorching day. The pathmakers go first. 30 men carrying boxes of dynamite. Blasts every 15 minutes tear through the mountain silence. Flashes light the darkness like lightning. Bulldozers follow immediately. Headlights cutting through the dark. Engines roaring. They shove torn rock down into the abyss, forming the roadbed as they go. It is crude. It is fast. 250 meters per hour in mountainous terrain. 4 times faster than any known engineering standard. Dawn, July 11th. The men have worked 9 hours. They have laid 2 kilometers of road through mountains. But the enemy has noticed. Italian observation posts call for artillery. At 6 in the morning, the first shell falls 40 meters from a bulldozer. Driver Private Carl Schmidt from Wisconsin does not stop his machine. A second shell explodes 20 meters away. Shrapnel pings off the armored cab. Moore runs toward the bulldozer, shouts for Schmidt to take cover. Schmidt kills the engine, sticks his head out of the cab. Sir, if we stop, the army will be stranded here for a week. I will continue. He starts the engine again. Continues working. Over the next 3 hours, artillery fires 18 shells at the construction site. None strike the equipment directly. Perhaps the Italians cannot believe anyone would actually build a road under fire. Perhaps they think it is madness. But the Americans do not stop. By noon, the heat rises to 38 degrees Celsius. Men work in 4-hour shifts. Each man drinks more than 20 liters of water per day. Medics record 11 cases of heat stroke. But the work does not pause. By evening, 8 kilometers have been carved through the mountains. Night of July 11th to 12th. Ahead lies a slope of 48 degrees, 120 meters high. By normal engineering rules, a switchback would be required. That means 3 additional days and 4 extra kilometers. Moore chooses a different method. Cut the slope directly. Demolition teams lay 24 explosive charges in a checkerboard pattern. Total weight, 700 kilograms of dynamite. A single powerful blast transforms the slope into a ramp. Bulldozers immediately push forward, level the debris. The resulting grade is 32 degrees, too steep for civilian roads, acceptable for military use. Morning of July 12th, aviation joins the effort. 2 P-38, Lightning reconnaissance planes, patrol overhead. They spot enemy observation posts, call in counter-battery artillery. The shelling stops. By noon, the immediate threat has passed. 36 hours after the start, the road is complete. 23 kilometers through mountains, 6 meters wide, suitable for 2-way military traffic. The surface is tamped stone and gravel. Not perfect, but solid. At 2 in the afternoon, the first column passes. 80 trucks carrying 2 tons of ammunition each. The journey takes 1 hour and 20 minutes. In Nîmes, they are met by American tank crews who have been waiting 2 days for supplies. The company commander, Captain O'Brien, looks at his map. Cannot comprehend. Where did you come from? From Yellow Beach. Impossible. There was no road. Now there is. July 13th. German reconnaissance writes in its daily report. The enemy constructed a road through mountains in 2 days. This contradicts known engineering norms. Recommends verification of intelligence. But the information is accurate. It is neither the first nor the last time the Wehrmacht will doubt their own eyes. When confronted with American engineering speed, the 540th Battalion pays a price for its success. 7 men killed, 23 wounded. But their road saves hundreds of others. It shortens the Sicily campaign by an entire week. General Bernard Montgomery personally visits Moore afterward. He admits openly, "Major, you have made me revise my ideas about military engineering. I thought I knew how to build. It appears I did not. Sicily is only preparation. Ahead lies Italy, an even harsher school for American engineers, where the enemy will not merely fight, they will destroy everything in their path, and American engineers will have to rebuild faster than the Germans can demolish." If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. December 1943. Italy. The American army has stalled in the Apennine Mountains south of Rome. The Germans are withdrawing slowly, methodically, leaving behind total devastation. This is scorched earth perfected to an art form. Demolished bridges, smashed roads, collapsed tunnels, every piece of infrastructure systematically destroyed. The 235th Engineer Battalion receives orders to restore Highway No. 6, the main artery leading to Rome. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Daly commands, 42 years old, a veteran of the First World War. He knows what real destruction looks like. But even he is shocked by what the Germans have accomplished. The route survey reveals the extent of the damage. Over an 80-kilometer stretch, 31 bridges destroyed, 6 tunnels collapsed. The roadbed itself is pocked with craters almost every 200 meters. German engineers worked professionally, cruelly. They did not merely blow bridge spans. They undermined foundations, so rapid restoration would be nearly impossible. They filled riverbeds with boulders, altered water flows, planted booby-trap mines that detonate the moment anyone begins clearing operations. British engineering experts examine the route. Their estimate is sobering. At least 3 months, possibly longer. Daly studies the map in silence for 5 minutes, then makes his decision. We will do it in 1 month. 30 days. His officers' faces show disbelief. 1 month for 80 kilometers of devastation. Impossible. But Daly has already opened his field handbook. Chapter 11. Restoring communications in mountainous terrain. He orders every officer to read it. Immediately. Work begins on December 8th. Nights drop to -5 degrees Celsius. Rain falls almost daily. Soil turns to mud. Equipment bogs down. Daly changes the fundamental approach. He divides the route into 30 segments of 3 kilometers each. Each segment is assigned a separate 20-man crew. All work simultaneously, independently. The traditional approach would be sequential. Complete 1 kilometer. Move to the next. Repeat. But that method is too slow. Daly's parallel approach means even if some crews encounter delays, others maintain the overall pace. Progress does not depend on any single bottleneck. The first major obstacle is the Grignano River. The old bridge is destroyed down to its piers. On the banks, only a single concrete column remains standing. River width, 52 meters. Depth, 4 meters. Current is swift. A complete new bridge would require a minimum of 2 weeks. Captain James Warner proposes a non-standard solution. Not a bridge, a fixed pontoon crossing. Metal AM2 pontoons are linked with steel cables, anchored to the remaining piers. Steel plates reinforced with timber, are laid across the pontoon tops. The structure floats but does not drift. It is held in place by heavy cables. They work at night under minimal lighting to avoid enemy observation. In 6 hours, the crossing stands. At 8 in the morning, the first Sherman tanks roll across. The pontoon platform heaves under the weight, groans, but holds. The German daily intelligence report is brief. The enemy erected a bridge across the Grignano overnight. Type unknown. Recommend destruction. Artillery attempts to destroy the crossing, but the low profile of the pontoons makes them difficult targets. 10 shells fired, no direct hits. The crossing lasts 3 weeks until a permanent bridge can be constructed. The next challenge is the Mona Cassino Tunnel, 380 meters long. Both portals are blown, clogged with rubble. The classical engineering approach would be clear the debris, rebuild supports, shore up the vault. Minimum 1 month of work. Daly takes a radical decision. Do not rebuild the tunnel. Cut a bypass shelf around the mountain. 40 meters of rock face at approximately 30 meters above the old road. Geologists warn that the rock mass is unstable. Daly's order is short. Work with small charges. Instead of one large blast, they use a series of low-yield explosions, 5 kilograms of dynamite each. Rock is removed by hand in sacks. One crew can move up to 20 tons per day. 20 crews working simultaneously move approximately 400 tons daily. In 1 week, a new bypass road forms. Safe, functional, not perfect, but it works. The third problem is minefields. There are thousands of mines, not on the roadway itself. That would be too obvious, but on the shoulders. In ditches, under stones, sapper teams work ahead of the main construction crews. They use new mine detectors, Polish origin devices, now in American service, indexed SCR 625. The mountain soil contains iron nodules. This causes false positives. Often, the sappers must revert to the old method, probing every 10 centimeters with a thin steel rod. Slow, exhausting, mortally dangerous. In 1 month, the 235th neutralizes 2,735 mines. They lose 18 men in the process. New Year's Eve, 1944. The calendar turns to 1945. The men spend it on the road, eating canned rations, drinking hot coffee from thermoses. Someone plays a harmonica. Old Lang Syne echoes through the mountains. Then back to work. No complaints. Everyone understands that each hour saved is lives preserved at the front. January 7th, 1945. Exactly 30 days after the start. Highway number 6 reopens. 80 kilometers restored. 31 bridges repaired or temporarily replaced. 6 tunnels bypassed or cleared. The first convoy is 100 trucks carrying ammunition and provisions for the Fifth Army. No delays, no bottlenecks, just a steady stream of supply. General Mark Clark arrives in person to inspect the work. He finds Daly standing by the roadside. "Lieutenant Colonel, your men did the impossible." Daly only shrugs. "No, sir. We just did our job as we were trained." But it is more than a job. It is the craft of turning ruins into roads, chaos into order, the impossible into routine operational standard. Ahead lies Normandy, where American engineering will reach its apex, where the fate of the entire invasion will rest on the ability to build under fire, to open roads from beaches into the French interior, to do it fast enough that the army does not get pinned on the shore and destroyed. February 1944. Southern England. Camps hold 119,000 American soldiers preparing for Operation Overlord, the largest amphibious operation in history, among them 15 engineer battalions, approximately 8,000 men. Their mission sounds simple on paper: open roads from the beaches into the interior of France. In reality, the success of the entire invasion depends on it. General Dwight Eisenhower understands the stakes perfectly. The Germans have built the Atlantic Wall, a system of concrete bunkers, artillery positions, obstacles, mines. In Normandy, They have blown bridges, mined roads, flooded lowlands. If the engineers cannot punch through in the first hours, the entire army could be trapped on the beach, shredded by artillery. Eisenhower summons Colonel Paul Thompson, Chief Engineer of Operation Overlord. Colonel, I can land 150,000 soldiers, but if after 24 hours they are still on the beach, it will be a slaughter. Can you open the roads? Thompson spreads a thick folder of maps, photographs, and engineering schematics across the desk. Sir, we have been preparing for 3 months. He points to the map of Normandy. Routes are marked in different colors. Red means priority, must be opened in the first 6 hours. Orange means by day's end. Yellow means by the second day. Each route is assigned to a specific battalion. Each battalion has tasks timed to the minute. Eisenhower asks the critical question, and if the plan breaks, what if nothing goes according to schedule? Thompson answers calmly. For every route, we have a plan B and a plan C. We have rehearsed 38 different scenarios, from ideal conditions to catastrophic failure. And these are not empty reassurances. Thompson's staff has truly modeled the operation for 3 months. They used aerial reconnaissance photos, debriefs from French resistance fighters, captured German documents from Italy. In Devon, they even constructed a scale model of the Normandy coast, 1:100 scale, a full-size practice beach. March 1944, a training range in Devon, the first large-scale rehearsal, Exercise Tiger. Three engineer battalions conduct a simulated landing. Task: in 6 hours, cut a 3-kilometer road through a minefield. Restore 2 blown bridges. The result is failure. In the allotted time, they cover only 1.5 kilometers. The battalions work sequentially, waiting on one another, instead of acting in parallel. Thompson halts the exercise, gathers all officers, points to his watch. 6 hours. You made it halfway. In reality, German artillery would already be falling. Half the army would be dead. What went wrong? Investigation reveals the problem. The battalions lacked clear inter-unit signals. Some crews waited 20 minutes for nothing, not knowing their neighboring unit had already finished clearance. Lost time multiplied across the operation. The fix is simple. Colored flares. Green means sector clear. Red means problem. Need assistance. White means phase complete. A basic system that works even in the chaos of battle. Second rehearsal. Better. 2.5 kilometers in 6 hours. But still not enough. Thompson changes the approach. Each battalion now receives one key function, either mine clearance, or bridge work, or road construction, specialization instead of generalization. Third rehearsal in early April. The system works. 3 kilometers and 2 bridges within the standard time. Fourth rehearsal. Faster still. Fifth rehearsal. The battalions run like clockwork. Sixth rehearsal becomes the real exam. Night conditions, smoke screens, loudspeakers broadcasting explosion sounds, searchlights mimicking illumination flares. Conditions as close to real combat as possible without actual combat. The result surprises everyone. 4.5 hours for 3 kilometers. Better than daytime performance. The men no longer think. They execute the algorithm. Each knows his task. Each knows the next step. Muscle memory replaces conscious thought. May 1944. Engineer battalions receive upgraded equipment. New armored Caterpillar D7 bulldozers, more resistant to shrapnel. Improved SCR 625A metal detectors, Bailey bridge components that are lighter and faster to assemble. Every soldier carries a palm-sized card. On it, the exact plan for his segment. A timed algorithm. 0 to 30 minutes, clear mines in Sector Alpha. 30 to 60 minutes, lay decking. 60 to 90 minutes, prepare approach road. Before the landing, Eisenhower calls Thompson one final time. Colonel, tell me frankly, if everything goes wrong, heavy resistance, bad weather, losses higher than forecast, will you manage? Thompson answers without bravado. Sir, we are ready for the worst. The roads will be there, I promise. This is not bluster. Africa, Sicily, and Italy have already proved American engineers can do the impossible. But Normandy will be their greatest trial, their ultimate test, and their triumph. June 6th, 1944, 0630 hours. Omaha Beach. The first infantry waves are pinned to the shore by machine gun and artillery fire. The water turns red with blood. This is the bloodiest sector of the entire operation, and it is precisely here that the engineers must go in. 0645, landing craft nose onto the beach. On board, the 37th Engineer Battalion. Major Hank Hansen commands. He looks through binoculars, sees a scene that matches none of the 38 scenarios they rehearsed. The infantry is still on the sand, unable to advance. Naval gunfire has not suppressed the German positions. Plan A is collapsing before his eyes. Hansen drops into the landing craft well deck, addresses his men. Listen up. On the beach, everything is wrong, but our mission remains the same. Open an exit off the sand. Without it, the army cannot move. We go to Plan B. Sector Beta is closed. We go through Alpha. Sappers first, then bulldozers, then on my signal. Any questions? There are no questions. They have drilled this algorithm 5 times in Devon. They know exactly what to do. 0650. The ramp crashes down. A 10-man sapper team jumps into the water, metal detectors on their backs, probes in their hands. A wave hits them, waist-deep. The first man reaches the beach, powers up his detector. 5 seconds later, he locates the first mine, a Teller 42, approximately 5.5 kilograms of explosive. He marks the spot with a small flag, moves on. There is no time to clear mines, only to mark a safe corridor. In 5 minutes, on a strip 10 meters by 30 meters, they mark 18 mines. This will be the road. Sergeant Kowalski fires a green flare into the gray sky. Signal, sector marked, safe to advance. 0700 hours. The first bulldozer comes ashore, a D7 with armored cab. 19 tons, slow in first gear, but sure. Driver, Private Robert McDonald, a farmer from Iowa who drove tractors on his family's land before the war. German machine guns switch to the vehicle. Bullets ring against the armor. Sparks fly, no penetrations. McDonald steers between the small flags toward a 2-meter earthen berm. Beyond it, the ground offers relative cover. He drops the blade, presses forward. The berm crumbles under mass and approximately 185 horsepower. 0708. An explosion. A hidden mine under the left track. The dozer rears, shudders. The cab holds. McDonald survives, but the machine is disabled. On the command ship 2 kilometers offshore, Thompson sees the stoppage through binoculars. Radios immediately. Second bulldozer to the beach. Bypass the first. Continue the cut. The second D7 is already inbound. At the controls, Private Schmidt, the same man who worked under fire in Sicily, 0715. Schmidt navigates around the crippled dozer, pushes through the berm. Mortar rounds and artillery bursts fall close. One shell gouges a crater 3 meters away. Dirt sprays across the windshield. Schmidt activates the wipers, keeps rolling forward. 0730. The breach is ready, 4 meters wide. Enough for trucks and light tanks. Schmidt fires a white flare. Phase 1 complete. Vehicles begin moving immediately. 3 GMC trucks with ammunition. Then jeeps carrying wounded. Then tanks. But ahead lies a flooded lowland. Approximately 100 meters across. The Germans blew a dike. Water to the knee. Bottom like thick soup. Tracked vehicles will bog down. A causeway is needed. 0800 hours. The 37th Road construction crew goes to work. Approximately 100 men with shovels, sandbags and planks. The method is simple but brutal. Fill bags with sand and stone. Carry them forward. Lay the base of a dam. Deck on top with timber panels. The human chain does not stop. Mortars pound the work area. One burst catches a team directly. 5 men are killed instantly. Others grab the bags from dead hands. Keep going. No one retreats. 0930. The causeway is complete. 110 meters long, 3 meters wide. Proof test. A heavy truck with trailer. Approximately 11 tons. Total weight. It rolls across. The deck flexes, groans, but holds. White panel flag raised. Route open. By noon, approximately 2,000 men, 100 trucks, and 36 tanks have passed through this single exit. That is the turning point. The troops are no longer trapped on the sand. They can push inland. The credit belongs to the engineers who, in a few hours under fire, built a road from nothing. The 37th loses 29 men killed, 67 wounded, nearly 15% of its strength, but their work saves thousands. Without this corridor, the landing on Omaha could have drowned in blood, and Operation Overlord could have taken a very different course. That evening, June 6th, General Omar Bradley finds Hansen on the beach. "Major, your men are heroes." Hansen's reply is immediate. "No, sir. My men are engineers. We're just doing our job, and they will keep doing it every single day for 11 more months until American columns finally reach Berlin." If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. June 1944. 1 week has passed since D-Day. The Americans hold a Normandy lodgment, approximately 80 kilometers wide and up to 20 kilometers deep. But a critical bottleneck emerges. Supply, ammunition, fuel, and food still move over the beaches. It is slow, unreliable, hostage to weather. A proper port is desperately needed. The nearest is Cherbourg, at the northern tip of the Cotentin Peninsula. Before the war, it was among France's largest ports. 5 piers, 24 cargo cranes, its own rail terminal and warehouses, throughput capacity up to 20,000 tons per day. Take Cherbourg, and the logistical crisis eases significantly. The Germans anticipate this. The garrison commander, Lieutenant General Karl Wilhelm von Schlieben, receives a direct order from Hitler himself. Cherbourg must become a second Stalingrad. If the port cannot be held, destroy it so the enemy cannot use it for at least 3 months. Von Schlieben executes the order methodically, thoroughly. Engineers mine every critical structure. They blow the cargo cranes so they topple into the water and block the channel. They deliberately sink 22 ships in the harbor, creating barricades of twisted steel and concrete. They wreck gantry cranes, disable the power plant and waterworks. They even tear up railway tracks and dump them into the sea. June 27th. American troops enter Cherbourg. The city is taken, but the port is dead. The harbor looks like a ship graveyard. Hulls jutting at angles, piers shattered, concrete slabs shifted by deliberate blasts, water filmed with oil from ruptured tankers. British engineering experts inspect the devastation. Their verdict is sobering. At least 4 months to basic recovery. Approximately 1 year for full reconstruction. General Omar Bradley shakes his head. "I do not have 4 months. I have 4 weeks, or the offensive suffocates for lack of supply." He summons Colonel Paul Thompson. "Colonel, Cherbourg is yours. Get the port running. You have 1 month." Thompson surveys the smashed infrastructure, answers honestly. "Sir, 1 month is very optimistic, but we will try." June 28th, 6 engineer battalions arrive, approximately 3,000 men. With them, the 1,056th Port Company. Civilian specialists mobilized for military service. Crane operators, divers, dock workers, average age 38, older than line infantry, but with hard-won skills. Priority 1, open the harbor entrance, currently blocked by sunken hulls. They work along 2 axes. Method 1, blast and fragment. Divers work by touch in pitch-black water through oil and mud, water temperature no warmer than 15 degrees Celsius, near zero visibility. They clamp explosive charges to wrecks. After detonation, floating cranes and tugboats grab the pieces, haul them to shore. Method 2, reflotation. For large ships, it is more efficient to patch holes with steel plates welded from inside. Pump out water, refloat the hull, tow it aside. Work does not stop. 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. Divers rotate in 4-hour shifts. Longer is unsafe in those conditions. In the first week, they raise 4 ships. The tempo is too slow. At this rate, a month will not suffice. Thompson changes the concept. Do not clear the entire harbour. Punch a single working channel, approximately 30 meters wide, just enough for ships to enter and dock. Demolitions concentrate on the fairway. They employ heavier charges. Risk to the harbour bottom increases, but speed increases too. By the end of week 2, the channel is ready. July 16th. The first transport ship enters Cherbourg, the James Oglethorpe, carrying 1,500 tons of ammunition. Unloading begins immediately on the quay, but all fixed cranes are destroyed. Handchains yield almost nothing, approximately 100 tons per day. Nowhere near enough. A mechanical solution is needed. Engineers search the port, find 3 damaged crane jibs. The hoist machinery is wrecked, but the great lattice booms are intact. The engineers improvise a solution. They convert trucks into power plants. A cable from the jib runs through blocks to a winch mounted in a GMC truck bed. The truck engine pulls. The jib lifts. Crude, makeshift, but it works. 3 improvised cranes push daily unloading capacity to approximately 300 tons. That is 1/10 of pre-war capacity. But it is real throughput. Actual supply moving to the front. Second bottleneck, quays. Most have been blown in the middle, leaving only concrete pilings jutting from the water. Nothing to moor to. The fix is temporary floating piers, timber decking on metal pontoons. The structures sway, look flimsy, but they allow ships to tie up and transfer cargo over narrow gangways. Third problem, storage. All port warehouses have burned. The engineers erect temporary arch roof sheds from corrugated steel sheets, normally meant for airstrip construction. Simple arches, approximately 8 meters wide and 30 meters long, floors of wooden pallets to combat dampness. In 3 weeks, they raise 20 such sheds, approximately 4,800 square meters total. Not much, but enough to ease the worst shortage of covered storage space. July 20th. Exactly 1 month from the start, Thompson reports to Bradley. The port is functioning, sir. Current throughput, 2,000 tons per day. Bradley looks almost incredulous. You did this in 1 month. The British said at least 4. Thompson smiles slightly. Sir, the British build the right way. We build fast. Different philosophies, different priorities. Indeed. British engineers sought to restore the ideal pre-war configuration. Perfect reconstruction. The Americans made the port functional here and now. Ugly, imperfect, but workable. Operational. By war's end, approximately 2.5 million tons of supplies will pass through Cherbourg, the supply backbone of the entire American army in France. Without Cherbourg, the advance might have stalled on the Seine River. With Cherbourg, in 5 months the columns reach the Rhine. Colonel Paul Thompson receives the Distinguished Service Cross, the United States Army's second highest decoration for valor. But he continues saying the same thing to anyone who will listen. This decoration is not mine. It belongs to the divers in cold, black water, to the riggers who brought scrap metal back to life, to the thousands who carried crates on their backs. They revived Cherbourg. I only directed traffic. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you're watching from today.